Good morning. Happy Wednesday. I had a debate that I rather enjoyed yesterday on red flag laws in my Discord. And I thought I did pretty well with the position that red flag laws suck and that they are the standard of proof that they theoretically have, clear and convincing, at least in California, which is the civil equivalent to beyond a reasonable doubt, is impossible to prove, and yet gun violence restraining orders get granted. It's impossible to prove. It's impossible to prove that somebody will do something in the future or won't do something in the future. And so that means that they have to prove they may do something in the future. Well, if you're proving, if only all you have to do is prove is that they may do something in the future, what kind of standard is that? See, normally in any other kind of legal sense, like if you're going to get convicted of a crime, they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you actually did each and every element of that crime. If you're going to get a civil harassment restraining order or a domestic violence restraining order, you have to prove that the person that you're getting the restraining order against has done something. You have to prove that they have done something. At least in California, to get a domestic violence restraining order, you have to prove by a preponderance of the evidence, 51% to 49%, that the person that you're getting the restraining order against has done something. They have done it. On the civil harassment restraining order, you have to prove by clear and convincing evidence that they have done something. Whereas with the gun violence restraining order, you have to prove by clear and convincing evidence that they may, in the future, do something. You know, it's impossible to prove that you're going to get up tomorrow, right? It's impossible to prove that you're going to get up tomorrow. The only way you can prove that you're going to get up tomorrow is to wait until tomorrow and see if you get up. If you got up, then now you've proved it. Which it's impossible to prove. But to prove you may get up tomorrow, well, that's really easy to prove. It's in fact, how do you prove by clear and convincing evidence that you may get up tomorrow? Well, you've gotten up every morning since the day you've been born, so there's nothing to suggest that tomorrow is going to be any different. Boom! Clear and convincing evidence. You may get up tomorrow. Well, how do you prove that someone may commit violence tomorrow? Well, they've got a gun, and people use guns to commit violence, and so they have a gun, and they have access to that gun, so they may commit violence tomorrow. Boom! Here's your gun violence restraining order. Here's your red flag law at work. Congratulations. It's a meaningless, unworkable thing. It's a travesty of justice, and it is the state interfering with your constitutionally protected rights by using activist judges to strip away people's rights to bear arms one person at a time. And they can't prove ever that these red flag laws have actually prevented a goddamn thing because they can't predict the future. Anyway, so that got me thinking on the way to work. I had a little bit of extra time. I ran out of things that I really wanted to listen to on the way to work. So I thought, you know what? I'll make a video as I drive to work, and I'll pay attention to the road. I'm not reading comments or anything like that. I'm not actually looking at the screen. So, if I'm not as pretty as I should be, well, I apologize. I don't even know if you're going to be able to hear what I'm talking about. Hopefully you can. But anyway, it got me thinking about statism. Now, I've been called a statist a lot because I am of the opinion that a government or a power structure is necessary for humans. Humans are social animals. All social animals evolve hierarchies, structures, where there is some sort of a leader and the rest follow that leader. Now, there have been instances where you can get like tribal councils or other leadership groups, but we're social animals. It's biological, and your biology is your destiny, and we're programmed to follow the alphas. don't think Castro is an alpha, but he has a point where people are programmed to follow leaders. So I don't think that you can have an actual state. I don't think you could actually have a group of people that don't have some sort of a governmental structure. If there is truly a complete lack of a governmental structure, there's going to be a power vacuum, and someone is going to come in immediately and fill it. That's just what happens. I mean, if you look at war-torn places where the power structures have been uprooted, they immediately get replaced by the strongest, most dominant person in that particular area takes control. People gravitate towards him and start executing his will until some other larger, more dominant force, a larger and or more dominant force comes in and strips him of that power that he just acquires. We're social creatures. So anyway, we're going to have some sort of a social hierarchy. A social hierarchy is essentially a state. You get a group of people together, even if all those people. So let's say you get a group of people who all believe that everybody's equal and there should be no government, right? They have formed essentially a government. If they're going to make their little enclave, their little group of people with identical ideas on what a stateless society should be, that is a de facto government. They all agree on everything. As soon as you get one person in there who disagrees, either they have to expel that person, or they have to, as a majority, exert their dominance, exert their influence on that person to force that person to play their game, to adopt their rules, adopt their morality, adopt their ideologies. There's just no way around having some sort of a governmental structure in place. Call it what you will, a social hierarchy, a governmental structure. I think there are distinctions without differences. So with that said, what would because I get called a statist a lot, and I don't agree with it, but what would my idea of what a statist is? My idea of a statist, to wrap this back around to the red flag laws, is that a person who believes that the government can supply solutions to societal problems, to individual problems, to things like that, that's a statist. An individualist would believe that the individual would be able to supply the solution to that individual's problems. And each individual would be able to solve their own individual problems unless that individual's problem impeded on another individual, in which case the second individual may have to take care of that first individual's problems, if that makes sense to you. So my idea of what a statist is someone who thinks that the state can solve problems. I don't think the state solves very many problems. I do think it solves some. Having a police force, not necessarily our particular standard of police force, is something that we as a society need, because there are individuals in our society who require external forces to be placed upon them before they will adopt the rules of society. There has to be some sort of external potential for corrective measures. They're incapable of controlling themselves. They need an external force applied to them for them to control, for them to be under control. Now, just since it's not quite 10 minutes, in John's perfect world, there would not be police, there would be sheriff, only sheriff, an elected individual. That elected individual would have to live in the county that he is elected to protect, and he would have to hire deputies who live in that county that he that they are being hired to work in. That gives the people some method of control over the head of the law enforcement agency, i.e. by voting for them. I know voting isn't perfect, but never let perfect be the enemy of the good. It's having some control over the head of law enforcement is better than having a police chief who's hired by the city, who you have absolutely no control over, because he's got his little contract, his employment contract, and it takes a majority of the city council, and all the city council can point fingers at the other city council people as to why this guy hasn't been fired yet, etc. I mean, I would prefer some method of control over no method of control. So in John's perfect world, there would be no police departments. There would only be sheriff's departments, and the sheriffs and the sheriff's deputies would all be required to live in the counties that they are protecting. That way they would be forced to live with the consequences of their action, to literally live with the consequences of their actions. Anyway, is it perfect? No. Is it better than our current system? I think so. Is it as amazing as having everybody wear 360 cameras that are being uploaded to 2 different transfer points simultaneously, and having the police all carry pillows that they can bop people with? Not as perfect as that, but it's the best I got. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.